Have you ever been driving and you find yourself on a route, let's say to work, and it's actually Saturday afternoon? That's almost what I was about to say when I was turning the music down. I was about to say happy Wednesday. But we are here on a special evening. So happy Tuesday to everyone joining. Thank you for joining on this special night to get to know Bob. We are still an amazing platform where we're having these conversations with phenomenal Bobs in a variety of different industries. And I thank you for joining us this evening. I am your host, Sonia M. Weaver. I am really excited about tonight's conversation as we continue during the month of May, which is amongst a lot of different things. But one thing is Mental Health Awareness Month. And the reason why I want to make sure we focus and have conversations surrounding mental health awareness is so that we continue to break the stigma that we have associated with it. Because really, we have health. We want good health. And your brain is a very important organ, just like anything else. You know, our skin is an organ, our heart's our organ, liver, and everything. So we need to break the stigma, because when we have issues with brain health, then we want to make sure we are addressing them accordingly. And no one should feel embarrassed or ashamed to get the help that they need to be the best version they can be. So I am really excited about today's conversation. It's going to shed a light on the differences of some resources that you can seek and why you might go to a different type of professional. But I'm really excited as we move forward into tonight's conversation. So as we move on, I do want to make sure I say a couple things. This past weekend was Mother's Day, and it wasn't until the show from last week ended where I said I forgot to do a pre-wish to all of those watching a happy Mother's Day. So I hope that you all had a phenomenal Mother's Day weekend. I do have a couple of video clips of how I spent my Mother's Day weekend. It started with Saturday at the phenomenal Gail Perry Mason's house. She opened up her house for Hugs for Women. Men were there too, so we got a few hugs from them, but it was just a day of relaxing and hugging. And my daughter and I started brunch that morning at church, and then we went to Gail's house that afternoon. So as you can see, we had an amazing time. And just Dr. Crystal Lockett, you know, phenomenal. Dr. Moreno, who is Gail being Gail. We had a phenomenal time here. So, phenomenal afternoon spent socializing and just really loving on one another. And of course, I had to then spend Mother's Day with my phenomenal mom and just shower our love upon her. We spent some time starting off at my grandmother's, leaving balloons and doing a balloon send off in honor of my grandmother, who we lost in 2022. And that was my nephew holding the balloon, getting ready to let it go in her honor, as we did our blessings of her being a part of our lives. At lunch, of course, just showing my mom with her gifts, my daughter and my nephew. You know, we had a special day. We lost Miles, so we really appreciated that. Term says love, adding to the Pandora term. You know, we're at the water, had a prayer at the water, and just really, really, truly enjoying my mom and spending time with her was just phenomenal way to share Mother's Day. So yes, I hope all of you out there that are watching, that are moms, that you had a phenomenal Mother's Day. I will say I understand that Mother's Day can also be difficult for a lot of people. You could no longer have your mom, or you might have lost a child, and you know you're thinking about that. And this show really is appropriate for that as well, because people who are dealing with loss can have mental breakdowns and mental challenges when it comes to loss. And so we won't, discredit the weekend. But if that is you, make sure you stay tuned. And if it's not you, make sure you share this with other people, because as we now bring on our guests, we're going to first, of course, find out who she is. But because of what I just said, we're going to kind of just talk a little bit about how handling grief does impact our mental health. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Dr. Lisa H. Fuller. How are you?
I am fine. And how are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, as we said, I want you to let everyone know who you are, what you do, and then why you do what you do.
Well, I'm Dr. Lisa H. Fuller. I'm a psychiatrist, and I am an ordained elder. So I'm an apostle in the Church of Jesus Christ, and an author, and the CMO, Chief Medical Officer and founder of Discern Life Consultant Health. So we have a sister organization, which is Discern Life Consultants. And one of the things we do is we bring community awareness to the of mental health issues, mental health topics, concerns. You talked about loss, you talked about grief, and those are some of the topics.
Awesome. So that is kind of why I want so many people to understand during this month. We have this stigma when people hear the word mental health, and I wish there was a way that we can kind of like start moving away so people can understand that that's really a huge umbrella of things that you might be experiencing as it pertains just to how you actually are processing information or handling information. So I'm hoping that through this conversation, we definitely can bring some enlightenment that will move us forward with those kind of stigmas associated with our mental health.
Absolutely. I do want to say this. One of the myths, or we think about it, is it's a character flaw. It's not a character flaw, or you're not weak, you're not strong enough. It has nothing to do with us being strong.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're experiencing a heart attack or chest pain,
right,
or the heaviness, where would you go?
Exactly.
I'd go to the emergency department. I go to the primary care doc, someone.
A professional.
Yes.
That can help you along. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Now, I do want people to know we're not going to go into every single thing we did because Dr. Lisa Fuller was on September 13, 2023. So some of the things that you may want to know that we introduced with a new guest, then just revisit that episode and you can find out more about Dr. Lisa. She shared about being a grandmother and all these other phenomenal things. So make sure you check out that episode. We will discuss just a little bit of those things as pertaining to why you got started in this particular area. What motivated you and what's your why that would separate you from others that might have, entered saying, I want to help people in this arena?
It's really interesting because one of the things I wanted to do, and I was so gun-ho on it, is I wanted to go into surgery. I mean, people, my mentors who were physicians, they were grooming me. They were putting me in several, rotations, and I had several, ENT and proctology and general surgery and just different things. And then one day, I was on a surgery rotation, and my resident, she had twins and she lost her twins because she was working. We're always at the hospital most of the day, most of the night. And at that moment, something clicked in my head, and I said, you know what? I want to help people in a different way. I don't want to be so tired that I can't help people. Mm-hmm. And that I'm no good to not only them, but myself either. And so that's when, and what I didn't know is actually that's what was really inside of me. So I was one of the moms that would cheer at the stands, knew that. And they were like, Mom, just be quiet. But all of that's mental health, and all of that's balance is good. So, at the football games, at the basketball games, etc., that's what I wanted to do. Not only did I want to, have my career, because yes, I did work. I worked maybe 6 days a week, but I also wanted family, and I wanted that balance.
Okay. Awesome. So, what would you then say would be your core mission, utilizing your multiple platforms, which we would discuss later, that core mission, and then at large, how it's serving the community? You mentioned how you got into it. So now where's that focus?
My core mission is, and some people say, oh, for real, but I'm going to be very, very candid. And my core mission is this. I want to help people, and I want to help people. We're composed of a body, a soul, and a mind. A body, soul, and a spirit. Mm-hmm. I want to help people on those levels. I believe that my core mission is to bring integration to those 3 levels: spiritually, and physically, and mentally. And the soul is composed of, our emotions, our mind, and our will, to integrate that.
And I'm hearing that a little bit more. I don't know about you, like the total wellness of the person, from your mind, your body, and your spirit. It just seems like for a long time we were talking about, physical health, getting in shape, eating right, and that was the majority that you always heard about. But we are a total being. We have to recognize that our thoughts and where all of those things are generated from is very important as well. I remember hearing a story of a man who was in a horrific accident, and he was like, he couldn't do anything. He couldn't move, couldn't talk, couldn't do anything, but he could think. And so he just kept thinking and giving thanks to God for being alive, but then thinking about how he would see himself walk out of the hospital. He began visualizing that happening, and slowly his body started responding. So I really that was profound to me, because it lets you know the power of our mind And therefore, we need to focus on the health and wellness of it. And then our spirituality is just so important as well, because in essence, I believe we are spiritual beings housed in this frame of a body. So I love that that's your focus, because that's really making sure that the total person is as well as they possibly can be. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Now, before we proceed into our next segment, we're going to take a moment to pause, and we're going to have some recognition from some of our sponsors with upcoming events. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
With Crystal L. Gunn, financial strategist. Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Your daily dose of financial empowerment. A journey towards financial wisdom and small business mastery.
Family together for financial night or grab your tribe and get flawless with financial strategist Crystal L. Gunn. Schedule your night today.
A decompression session hosted by Sonia M. Weaver and Jason Integrity. Celebrate the wins, let go of the stress, vent, share, and encourage. Register today on Facebook or Alignable by searching for the BE Black Entrepreneurs Group.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to YouTube and doing a search for Deals with Bob, then click on the subscribe button.
So welcome back. Okay, as we move into this segment, you gave a title, psychiatrist, which falls under a medical doctor, correct? Can you share the differences in titles? I know people think, okay, I need to go see someone, I'm not really emotionally well. You have a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, counseling, this whole umbrella of mental health and mental wellness. Can you share light on, what's the differences and why people might, gravitate to one versus the other, or why you would recommend one versus the other?
It's really interesting because it seems like there's an array or just so many, different titles. What do I do? Where do I go? Mm-hmm. And basically all can counsel, all can provide therapy. And I just want to just break it down just briefly, but the psychiatrist is the one who has gone to medical school and can prescribe medication if indicated, which may be the most expensive. The therapist, psychotherapist, counselor, they provide therapy mainly, unless, of course, in a private practice. The reason I'm saying this is because someone may want to start with seeing a therapist, which can include a psychotherapist, et cetera, counselor. And what happens is that, and I have a lot of therapists who refer their patients to me, and we may either see them jointly, or I may see, again, individually and refer to a therapist for counseling if I don't do the counseling in addition to the medication or pharmacological management myself.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the if you looked at it as a tier, if you feel that you also want counseling, although let's say not in conjunction with someone, but just one person, you will be able to perform as a psychiatrist that counseling, as well as if they felt at some point they needed medication. Whereas a psychotherapist wouldn't be able to do the medication piece, just only provide the counseling. Did I get that right?
And correct. And the reality is it may not be warranted. Medication may not be warranted.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that does make sense. And I wanted people to be able to understand and differentiate in the event that, they were out there and feeling that they, wanted to move forward, but didn't quite know what's what and, what's the difference. So thank you for elaborating and explaining that to us. I wanted to see something on the docket that they put in my I always get the word for us, my deck, my slide deck. And when you put this in here, I said, I see a familiar face. I would love for you to elaborate on this, because we're going to now segue into the fact that you mentioned that you are an author, and this says authors and finishers. And the familiar face that I saw on this docket was Coach Cherie Saylor. We went to high school together, and we're
Wow.
still in contact with one another. Tell me about then this event, and then we'll segue into your particular book and a little bit of tea coming up with another one.
Well, I just want to say that this wasn't it was a phenomenal event. And the authors, we came together and we were able to discuss our own journey, what impacted us and inspired us to write either the story of the book that was featured or our own story. And not only that, but the people were so invested because there were inspiring writers, inspiring authors. And like I said, just a phenomenal event. And I just want to say this, everyone has something that they want to do, that they're inspired to do. Mm-hmm. And so often as well, when I get time, when I raise a kid, when I get, and it's like, no. This is it. This is the time. And that's what the author said, this is the time.
Yeah. I love that. And it was interesting because someone had said two things most recent that goes hand in hand with what you just said. If you were to ask someone and they knew like the date that they were no longer going to be here.
Oh yeah.
Like almost 100% of people say they would not be doing what they're currently doing. They would go and do all of the stuff that you're saying when they would stop, they would do it now. And so someone said, so you don't know your day. So you should be living then doing those things now. And that was profound when you kind of think about it, because we don't know. And so why are we putting off these things that are going to bring us the joy that is really probably pulling at us, because it's really our purpose of what we're supposed to be doing? Even if you're doing the little teeny pieces, like, the elephant bites a little bit each day versus when, because you don't know when. We don't know tomorrow. So that's really profound. I am so glad you brought that up. Now the other thing, and it kind of went out of my head. Let me think. Maybe I'll come back. It happens, guys. When you get a little grays in your hair, it sometimes happens. But Dr. Lisa was at this, and I'm assuming that it was because of this amazing book.
Yes.
God's compassion towards me. Mental health professionals share wisdom, how God's compassion flows through them to others. That's the book that you were there discussing?
It is, and just an amazing book. 5 ladies, and I prayed and asked God, who do I ask? Who, because I know so many people, but who do I ask? And then I said, Lord, I pray they say yes. And, they were transparent. They talked about their own story and how God had compassion on them. Mm-hmm. And what happens is, and how God uses them to have compassion on others when they're working in the area of being a therapist or being a counselor or being a coach, a life coach. Just amazing. And I think it helps to break down the barriers. It's like, okay, well, I don't know about this. I don't want to tell, my business because they're going to look at me funny, but this book is just amazing with that. Begin to break the barriers. Yeah.
Yes. And I thank you. I was showing the little pieces of it, but I thank you for my copy. And I did start reading different segments in it. It was interesting how it's laid out, which I like, because it talks about each person, like a small little bio of them, which I read, and then then their chapter that corresponds. So it is really what Dr. Lisa is saying. Each person allow themselves a level of vulnerability to come through. And once you find out, there's some people that have get educated, like Dr. Lisa Fuller, and they get the education piece that's required, but it still boils down to having a heart to want to help our fellow man. And I know I have a lot of people that I work with in business, and they always say, "Oh, I want to help people." And I tell people, "Yes, I already know that, because we're wired. Really, if we're walking in our purpose, we're wired to want to help people, because that's where the commandment comes. When you love each other, which is the second thing, you love God, then love one another.
Yes.
When you love someone, you want to help. You want to show that you're concerned, that you care. And so when you say that, I'm not surprised, but it's finding out in what area and in what way are you helping one another. And one thing, when you allow yourself to have a level of vulnerability, it allows for the person who might have a wall built up for already an area that still has some stigma to it. It allows for them to kind of break that wall down so that they can meet and make a connection with the person and recognize that this person is here to help me as well, with the resources and the intellectual property that they possess.
So true, because it dismisses, what are they going to think of me? What are they going, it dismisses that myth of judging.
Yes. Yes. And that comment then would go hand in hand with this question to you. So what are some misconceptions people might have about you and the work that you actually do?
Oh, this is an easy one. And it's so interesting because I was plagued with this question. I was like, I recall, I went to Second Ebenezer initially. So I was a minister in training for 4 years, and then a licensed minister for 4 years, and then ordained after 5 years. I'm saying this because in my mind, I kept saying, but I'm a psychiatrist. They wire you hard, and it's like, okay, you do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and, in med school and in, residency and internship. And I kept saying, and the toil is, but I'm a psychiatrist. How does it fit? Grandfather was a pastor, uncles, pastors, etc. But how does this fit? And so what happens is that basically, when God calls you for whoever he has created you to be, and it could be whatever it is, our fingerprints are individual,
right?
Walking in that, because so often, because what we've been exposed to was like, okay, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it the rest of our lives, etc. But little do we know, and maybe it's a good thing we don't know this, is that there's another course that he's designed, but we have to go through a certain process, to get it so far. And then, it'll be revealed.
Right. I love that. Well, no, I'm not going to say I love it, because I don't. I was going to say I love that God doesn't, he doesn't give you the whole picture or plan. And I don't love it. I just know that that's how it is. It's like you get a glimpse of knowing, like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. Once you actually open yourself up to say, okay, God, use me. What was I placed here to do, in the arena of helping your people? And then you're kind of like you said, you find these things you like, you gravitate for it. Like there was something within you that sparked an interest in medicine. So then you began down that path, and then you had something else happen that said, oh no, this is the area of medicine, but then you had the roots instilled in you from your grandfather and, of how you saw them helping people. And it was like, well, I'm really this person. How can I merge everything about me so I can be my authentic self coming across in my purpose? That's kind of what I heard you say.
Absolutely. And that's it. And when you surrender, you get to the point where it's like, okay, God, just show me. So I love, I do kids books and books with respect to helping people, with mental illness, and just books that help children to, have a relationship with God. And as I say all that, I'm inspired. I love going, and this is my core, my fiber. I love going on the mission field. And we're talking places that don't have water, don't have electricity. But what happens is, it's just there's something that's inside of me. And you say, well, how do you incorporate medicine? Well, so when Haiti first had the really large earthquake, so I was there 3 times that year, we practiced, I canceled in little Kmart tents. There were 5 of us. It must have been 95 degrees. I remember that, post-traumatic stress, debriefing, but also in the same sense, teaching, if you don't have a tourniquet, if you don't have something to stop bleeding, teaching, take your belt off, take your shirt off, showing not how to move people because of head injuries. So it's all incorporated.
Yes, I can see that now, how it's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, before we move into our next segment, Dr. Lisa, we are going to take another break and allow for our core businesses to be acknowledged with their upcoming events. We'll be right back.
A night of music, food, and fun. For Mellow Fridays, being entertained by award-winning King Mellow Man. Every Friday at Shields Restaurant, Bar and Pizzeria. Located at 25101 Telegraph Road, Southfield, Michigan.
Families with boys ages 3 to 7 years. A reading program pilot on Saturdays, May 11th to June 15th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Sign up at www.emiyworld.com or call 313-638-3649. F of Michigan and Silas Norman Medical School in-person summer academy program at Wayne State University. July 29th through August 2nd, 2024 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Free enrollment and limited capacity. Register online by May 17th, 2024.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to YouTube and doing a search for Deals with Bob, then click on the subscribe button.
And we're back. So I do every show, even though we did this on a previous one, of how I'm connected to my phenomenal guest. And so I must say, and I didn't grab it, I was going to grab it. Bertanji is how we met, and I was going to grab my bracelet because last month we had an awareness event for autism awareness, which leads into the whole platform of mental health in my next question. But yes, I beaded a bracelet. It was beautiful. Shout out to my business partner and designer, Cassandra McAfee, for autism awareness. And I want people, first of all, I don't think we can ever understand this organ up here. It's just so vast. Unlike maybe any other organ that we have, and I'm just taking liberties because I'm not a medical doctor to know. We probably don't know the inside out of any organ, but much less this brain and its true power. But autism, Down syndrome, cognitive impaired, I know it's like a blanket of various things that can happen, from loss of oxygen to the brain that can create, different ways in which it functions and process, to people where we have quote unquote nervous breakdowns or deep depression. I'm asking this question to kind of understand again. We have some people who are quote unquote born with processing difficulties, and then sometimes things happen to people where they have difficulty. From the medical standpoint, is our brain functioning differently with these things, or what kind of is going on, if you can share some light for the everyday person?
Well, I'm going to make this brief just for the simple fact that I could ramble, so I'm not going to ramble. But I will say this. There are some illnesses, diagnoses that can be due to trauma, organic. There are some that, with respect to being born, a particular genetic, and there are some that can be triggered by, addictions or substances. And some by the imbalances, because you can see with all of these actually changes, chemical changes in the brain.
Okay.
So I just want to give you like a just a tiny example. Tiny.
Okay.
Well, for example, let's just say with diabetes and someone's blood sugar is significantly high or
Mhm.
substantially low, there can be altered changes, with respect to that, imbalances, and like I said, just changes as in, they may feel down or lightheaded, or they may feel irritable.
Mhm.
That irritability with anemias, for example, and when I mean that, just brief, like hemoglobin, et cetera, decrease, iron decrease. What happens is that you can see depression, or even with
Mhm.
the thyroid disorder. I feel myself beginning to ramble, so I need to cut this one. Cut it
Well, see, here's the thing, because I do have a medical interest where I just be like, "Ooh, okay." I have to realize maybe not everybody that's watching probably is as geeky as I am. So, so thank you for being aware, because I'm
I
just like,
felt
okay.
it.
So okay, so from my geekiness, trying to put it into layman's term, is how I would always explain things for having a son on the spectrum. I would say you just process information differently. From what I recall, it's like pretty much everything we do, there's a signal that goes through our brain, which is our processing center, and it happens like, what's it called, synapse, or it happens
Yeah, quickly.
quickly.
Yeah.
And so if something is here that's not working quickly or properly, I should say, that's when you can see different responses physically come out. Is that
Absolutely, absolutely. And the neurotransmitters, the process.
mhm,
And so you're absolutely right, because you look at where you start and the ending, because I may say, or I may see, I don't know, I make something up, a cat,
mhm,
and it may be, a orange cat or a green cat. And I've never seen that, but then my brain is processing it, and I know that based on experience, I know that based on sight, etc.
mhm.
So, but there may be a chemical imbalance, there may be a physical um, issue that would prevent that
Right.
from me seeing that, and I may see it in a distorted form, if at all, depending on what the abnormality, if lack of a better word, is. Mhm.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so then for people who, let's say I want to talk right now to the person who, I hate the word normal. I hate that.
Yeah, yeah,
For all intents purposes are functioning and processing information like the majority of us do, put it that way. And then something happens that triggers some psycho, mental depression or state, a loss of a loved one that they can't process their brain around this grief of loss, or stress from a job causing different things. So when you find yourself, I guess the thoughts is what I'm thinking triggers a lot of things, at least for me, thinking on the outside in. I'm asking really a question. Is that true?
Mhm.
Because when you have a loss, you're thinking about, that person no longer being here, and then you're feeling it and you're manifesting it, which to me can be magnified. And next thing you find yourself responding to these things that you've been thinking. And really the brain is triggering these responses of how we're seeing it manifest. Am I kind of in the
Mhm. Because
area?
if you allow me to go back from the very beginning, because there may be trauma or an incident occurs where physically,
Mm,
organically, there may be, and I'm going to use the word interrupt.
okay.
And again, it could be different changes, or even a tumor, for example.
Mhm,
Now, let me move down as according to how you address some of the things you'd mentioned. Loss. And one thing that's very important is it's important that we grieve.
Yes, it
So
is.
it's important that we do, because it can be just as detrimental if we don't. And the 5 stages with respect to, oh my goodness, the denial and the numbness is like, oh my goodness. And then you go through the bargaining. Well, if I would have done this, maybe this would have been, or if this person, if I would have came home 15 minutes later, they wouldn't have to go out to the store, for example, and get in that accident and and then you go through, the anger, and then the depression, and then the acceptance at some point. And I would like to even suggest it's when beyond that is, now what? A new beginning. And so losing a job, losing social status, losing a spouse, losing a financial position, whatever it may be, that can cause triggers. And then when one becomes or shows signs, quote unquote, of a clinical manifestation of a depression, where they're down more days than they're up, for example, there are certain, as you had mentioned, chemical changes that occur, like a cascade of chemical changes that occur that can result of. And so therefore we come in with the antidepressants. But not only that, there are other things that can occur too. I believe that therapy, in addition to, if warranted, medication is warranted, is helpful. There may be a point where it's not as severe. So therapy, may be helpful.
And thank you for that, Dr. Lisa, because I wanted to make sure that, again, part of this is Mental Health Awareness Month. For me, is the stigma piece, because things are going to happen, and I want people to know that there's resources available, and to unrecognize when things, are not normal. You can get down, that's part of normal. But if you find yourself not getting back up, people who have been just in car accidents and they can no longer be who they were, find themselves like, whoa, why am I starting to feel this way? It's because you now are trying to figure out how to identify with the new you. And maybe it's not as easy as you thought it would be, and you were wrapped up in your title. Dr. Lisa mentioned the title, or you can no longer function and move the way you used to do, so you can't do the activities you enjoy. There are so many things in this life from day to day that can truly, just aging, just the aging of what you might not be able to do or think as quickly as you used to, could trigger these different things. And we want to make sure that that there are resources here. And so it leads me to something you recently had, and I want you to share with people what was just accomplished. This was this past weekend on Saturday. You part of this mental health fair. What was the purpose behind it, and what was addressed?
I seem like I'm age when I'm saying this, but it's part of the answer. In my 30 plus years of practice, I may be at the grocery store or someplace, and people will say, how can I get connected? How can I do this? And they may be seeing someone or seeing a therapist or going to community mental health. The purpose is to bring community awareness. So we see the mental health fairs, but people, the majority of people, they'll go to something that is helpful and it's close. So they may go to their church, they may go to their barbershop, they may go to their nail salon, whatever is familiar and is close. There are so many people, because of disparities in healthcare and mental health, that may not have a car to walk or a car to drive or transportation to get to where the larger facilities or places outside their community. So not only do we do them in Roseville, but we do them wherever there's a need. They're free. So no one has to pay for the facility. No one has to pay to come to those. But it's community awareness, bringing education or awareness and resources to the community. And one would say, yeah, but we have community mental health. But the reality is, what about the portion of people where they're not connected? They might be connected to me or you or to our friends. Right. And so that would help, because there are vendors there, and that helps them to get connected. It's not just the community mental health. There are other therapists and clinicians that are there. There are different agencies and organizations that are there. So it kind of, as you had mentioned earlier, kind of brings the wall down.
I love it. So before we proceed into our next segment, we do have a couple more events from our core sponsored business. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
The Black Advantage, Back to Basics. May 15th through 16th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Multiple speakers will be present. Register now.
Another remarkable production, Mark Hunter's What's a Man to Do, the stage play. May 18th, show times at 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. at the beautiful Flag Star Strand Theater. For tickets, go to God's World, Ticketmaster, or Flag Star Strand Theater.
Beauty Network presents Beauty Biz Brunch, May 19th, 2024 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Hosted by Brandy Taylor. Event will be held at Tailored Garden, 27494, Grand River Avenue, Livonia, Michigan, 48152. Register on Eventbrite.
Kappa Alpha Sorority, invest in your financial future. Mastering the Art of Wealth Management. Tuesday, May 21st, 2024, from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Zoom. Special guest is Gail Perry Mason. All are welcomed. Register today.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to YouTube and doing a search for Deals with Bob, then click on the subscribe button.
And welcome back. So with everything that we kind of discussed, and I know from the many hats over the years, you mentioned, I won't say it again, but you mentioned it. And mentioned being an involved mom during that time and all of those things. And I can only imagine with people entrusting some of their most sensitive issues and concerns over the years, what has kept you encouraged with the work that you're doing and keeping you able to really, this transfer of energies, I can imagine. So how do you stay encouraged?
That's for me a very easy one, because you know what? I fill myself up with the word of God. And I'm telling you, it's like going to the gas station and filling up. And it refreshes me. And the really cool thing about living in the 21st century is that I can go to YouTube, okay?
That's awesome. Yes. And I will say one thankful thing that happened during COVID is going to YouTube. I wasn't probably as actively going to YouTube and seeking out different ministers and messages. But once COVID opened it, I find myself hooked. Like, okay, I'm feeling the need to know, how to pray a little bit stronger through this issue. And I'll just do a search for prayer. You'll be surprised how many come up. And, it's kind of like I always use the analogy. You never can have too many people there's no such thing to me as a saturated market, because you said earlier, fingerprints, we're all unique. So the way we present is going to be unique. And I tell people, think about when you were in high school, they didn't have just one geometry teacher. You had at least like 2 or 3 geometry teachers. And people would say, I don't know geometry, or I failed geometry. But then when I took it with this teacher, it just made sense. And I said, well, geometry didn't change. It was the way it was presented to you, and it made sense for you on how it was presented to receive it. So yes, I agree with YouTube. You can find what you might be missing that's to help, fill in the gaps for you so that you can go on and continue to be encouraged. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because you do have a lot of stuff going. So we just talked about this past weekend, the health fair, but then I saw this on my docket and I'm like, wait a minute, that was last weekend. You had the health fair. Is this weekend?
Yes.
So please share.
It's so amazing. Bishop Huggins and Dr. Huggins, they are originally from Jamaica, but they relocated here to this area, which is Detroit, Michigan. And now they relocated back home and they are doing to Jamaica. They're doing tremendous, tremendous work, going into places where there are no churches, establishing churches, building churches, helping the people, providing a need. But not only do they do missions work in Jamaica, but throughout the world. They're global. And so this is to encourage, to help, and to raise funds for their Jamaica missions. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I know that missionary work is definitely a calling on someone. And you mentioned, yourself being in that area of it. So what have you found in other countries as it pertains to mental health compared to here in the US?
Well, it's really interesting. I was in, of all places, Siberia, Russia.
Okay.
And I remember I was on the unit. There was a female psychiatrist in the women's unit. And she spoke of Seroquel, Zyprexa, et cetera, the same type of medication. Of course, it was different. The wards were laid out different, but that was interesting to me. I had an opportunity in Panama. They gave me my medical license for 6 months so I could practice. And we did mental health, and then we had days where we did physical health. As far as I could see, the lines literally were as long as I could see. In each line, there were one person representing the whole family. I say all that to say, but I found the same thing with respect to depression and sadness, depression, grief, and loss. But it had to spend with respect to cultural. But this is the one thing that stands out in my mind. I remember sitting at the it was in Liberia, and it was in Monrovia, Liberia, at the Baptist College. I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but we were meeting with the president, and one of the gentlemen who was in admin, he turned to me and he said, "Would you think about coming here?" He said, "Because we only have one psychiatrist in the nation." And I laughed. Okay, I laughed. I thought, well, he's joking with me, right? But he said, "No, the psychiatrist is at the tire plant." However, I did have the opportunity after that occasion to go and to teach at the school Daystar. And there were counselors and psychotherapists and counselors in training for their undergrad and their master's and their PhD. So I say all that to say, and they had me to do a seminar. Not only did I do a seminar, but I also taught taught some of the staff a brief seminar about gender violence. I taught them the same thing that I have learned. And that's the same thing that I learned here. It's the same thing that I've learned in the books, the literature, et cetera. And again, it goes back to show, they wanted to know about burnout. The questions were, what do you do when you're experiencing burnout? What do you do when you have a patient that's difficult? Et cetera. And even the person who was over the Department of Psychology, she trained in Berkeley, California.
Okay.
So, I just think of some of the occasions. I remember going to Bulgaria, Sofia, Bulgaria. And so I taught a 36-hour pastoral counseling class. And what it was is included the DSM-4, the diagnostic statistical manual that we use, and the medications, et cetera. It's 36 hours. And again, the people that were there, the students, they were master's level, they were teachers, they were journalists, et cetera, working on either their master's or PhD.
Wow.
So, and it was the same thing that I learned in the literature.
Wow. That's really fascinating. It really is. And I was, as you were talking, I was like thinking, some of the countries that you've mentioned, and then thinking about the US. And I'm not trying to, because our mind, I always used to tell my staff, a person's perception is their reality. And I'll be thinking sometimes here in America, there's a percentage of people where it'd be like, y'all making the smallest of things, to magnifying it too much. Y'all causing yourselves to have this mental episodes where you don't need to. But then again, their perception is their reality, because I'm thinking in the other countries, like they got some real issues they're dealing with, but then as I was thinking, I said, well, again, a person's perception is their reality. So we have to treat it as such, because it's causing the manifestations of the same trauma and triggers that you would see from anything that we quote unquote would think is severe versus not. And so with that being said, as I was talking to myself, I want to make sure that I reiterate with others, because you have people who are not seeking the help that they need because others are saying that what they're thinking about or what's causing them their depression or their anxiety or whatever the case may be is trivial, that they need to get over it. So I want to make sure that anyone watching, you do not diminish what you're experiencing, especially based on thinking that it could be trivial.
Absolutely. If you will allow me to say this,
Mhm.
I just want to say this is really important, is that different cultures, and I mean, race is different than race is different than ethnicity, and then both can be different than culture. Different cultures can dictate or say, like you said, with respect to, oh, you just have a weakness you need to get over, or just ride it out, you're going to get past. I am from West Virginia, literally. And, saying that to say the Fullers, they were in one road. At the end of the road was a coal mine. So the people with mental illness, they a lot of them, they told him to go in a room and stay, and, in the older days, that's what you saw. So, yeah.
One thing that as you were talking to, and I just witnessed this at a store, and I don't know the cognitive issue, but the young boy had cognitive issues because he was screaming out, nonverbal. But at the checkout, he thrashed himself on the floor. And I'm assuming it might be his father, parent, or uncle. He was like, okay, come on, get up, stop it, get up. And then, he just nonverbal and just firm and loud, and then thrashed himself again, which this time he hurt himself. So now he's crying. And I'm thinking wow, not just for the young person, but so for anyone watching, the reason why this came to me is we have, this young male who has some cognitive where he needs the best help he possibly can get. But then I'm thinking about even the parent that was there and the exhaustion that he might be experiencing being a parent of this child, and then feeling how they may feel with eyes watching in a public situation. So as we close out and get towards the end, I want to make sure on both sides, wouldn't you agree that there's opportunity for both sides to be seeking resources and help for what they're experiencing on a regular basis?
Absolutely, because support groups and systems for caretakers, that's really, really important. I mean, if someone is a caretaker and they are tired and frustrated and irritable, there's a possibility or increased probability that they may lash out at the child, for example, if it's a child, or the older adult, for example. So the support is needed, respite care is needed. And then not only that, it's not a bad thing if you or the person would want therapy as well. And I'm not talking about, therapy is intensive, but supportive therapy.
Right. Yes, thank you for that. So before we wrap up, because we are at our hour mark, I want to take a moment to highlight our final events happening from our core sponsors in the area. And then we're going to wind down with our final questions. So we'll be right back.
Attention girl dads. Linked wants you to come beat and bond with your daughter for Father's Day. Saturday, June 8, 2024 from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. at the Caroline Kennedy Library, 25490 George Street, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. You're the world to your daddy's girl.
Juneteenth 2024 Book Fair, presented by Detroit Book City. Saturday, June 22nd, 2024 from 12 noon to 5 p.m. at the Historic People's Community Church, 8601 Woodward Avenue, Detroit, Michigan. Free admission, RSVP on Eventbrite.
Productions presents a funk rhythm and soul concert featuring Full Circle and special guests. Saturday, June 29, 2024 from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Secondra's Place, 12325 Hamilton Avenue, Highland Park, Michigan. Admission $25. Come get P-funked.
Support you and your event by adding it to our Stay Connected segments and encouraging community support. Visit www.dealswithbob.com or call us today.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel by going to YouTube and doing a search for Deals with Bob, then click on the subscribe button.
And we're back for our final segment. Okay, so this is tea time. And we did allure that you are an author of an amazing book, co-authored with other phenomenal people. But you shared a little tea with me that there is yet another book on the horizon. Please share.
Absolutely. This is the book is a devotional and a journal.
Oh.
And the way it's women's 30 plus 1 day devotional and journal. And what it is that when you make a commitment to read this book, it says it at the beginning, to go on a journey with God for you choose 30 or 31 days, depending on what he says. Mm-hmm. And what it does is for each person, it's going to be different. And the reason I say that is because the scripture is there that he's given me or he gave me. And then there's another section that you write your thoughts and what it is that you feel in your spirit and your heart that God is saying to you. And not only that, but you're fasting and praying at the same time. So I say all that to say each woman is going to experience something different. For those with self-esteem issues, those who don't know who they are, for those who, different things, they're going to experience a change.
Yes. That's awesome. I look forward to seeing that come out. And then speaking of books, what book is currently on your nightstand?
I knew you were going to ask this, and it's so funny. I should get the name of it. I just finished 10X with Grant Cardone, and I hope you don't mind me doing this, but I am going to make sure that I give you the correct name. So I'm reading another book by him right now, and it's called Be Obsessed or Be Average.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
Be obsessed or be average. I'm going to have to write that one down too. Okay, awesome. Now, we do have one image on the slide deck. We can go hand in hand because the next question is how we're going to connect with you. But I want to let people know that one thing that you have going on where they can get connected to some of the information and encouragement that you share is through your radio podcast. So share about that and then let us know how else we can connect with you.
Well, on Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. on 1440 a.m., which is WMKM, every Sunday. And then on Mondays, there is on WCVG. So those are two live radio broadcasts. And then drlisahfuller.com, as well as lisahfullerministries.org. And then Christ Arms Reaching Everywhere Ministries, which is our church, and last, Discern Life Consultants, which we have here on the screen, which is our mental health branch.
Awesome. Do you have any final remarks or want to make sure you say something that we didn't happen to talk about on this conversation tonight?
I just want to say that People in different states or someone may be moving and say, well, how do I get connected? You can
Mm.
start at community mental health. There are community mental health literally throughout the country. That's a basis. And then you can branch out from there, or you can call 988, which is a suicide lifeline. I just wanted to share it because it's very simple. You can text 988 or you can call 988. Very, very important.
Thank you for sharing that. That I didn't know. Thank you. Well, I want to say a special thank you for our core businesses that sponsor tonight's show. We have Sonya and Weaver Coaching, Tranquility Christian Counseling, Bright Tech Communications, and Linked LLC. And if you have not already done so, we had a couple of things prompting you throughout the show to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You will simply go on YouTube, do a search for Deals with Bob, and then you're going to click that subscribe button to become a subscriber. While you're there, click the notification bell so you'll be notified of every time we go live. Please know that the more subscribers we have, the further reach we can get to make sure our conversations like tonight's conversation with Dr. Lisa H. Fuller reaches the masses, because mental health definitely impacts a majority of people. And do not think that you are immune, because life can happen and it can create a trigger. So having the resources and the information about mental health is key. That 988, thank you for that. I'll remember that, 988. So this brings us to the end of our conversation for this evening. I want to thank all who are watching us live and those watching us on the replay. I appreciate your support. Make sure you share this to your social media and with others. I am Sonya M. Weaver, and I encourage you to spend with purpose, because your dollars do matter, and continue to deal with Bob. Have an amazing week. I'll see you soon. Bye.